Good morning, nursing community, best in the West nursing workforce in the West, if not the world. I'm Deb Burton. I am the Chief Nursing Officer for Providence St. Joseph Health, and it is my absolute pleasure and excitement I want to share with you to launch this professional nursing series. Just as background, as you I no doubt know, 2020 is Year of the Nurse. And we jumped into it to really celebrate not just the accomplishments of our nursing workforce, but as well Florence Nightingale's 200th birthday. And then COVID taught us we were going to celebrate very, very differently. And in many ways, COVID has brought out the very, very best of what nursing has to offer on behalf of delivering on our mission, but it also has stressed us tremendously. We were not able to deliver our distinguished nursing lectureship that we do annually to celebrate nursing across Providence St. Joseph Health. We were excited to have the CEO of Age-Friendly Health System program of the Hartford Foundation, who is a nurse, to give our lecture. And we felt it was very important to support and continue to move the workforce as we always do in the Year of the Nurse and during Nurses Week in May. And so I want to thank the Nursing Institute leadership for deciding we were going to do something different on an ongoing basis. So this is the first of a series that you'll hear more about. I'm going to now introduce formally Dr. Lynette Savage. Lynette, if you don't know, has over 30 years of experience with Providence, first in practice, then in management, then in quality, and now our greatest asset in helping develop nursing education at the graduate level at University of Providence, Dr. Lynette Savage.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Burton. We are delighted that you all are joining us today. If I could have the next slide, please. In this 6-part series, you're going to see that we're going to be talking about nursing career advancement, research, excellence, midwifery and the advanced practice nursing, and an age-friendly health system and the culture of mobility. If you look in the bottom lower corner, you're going to see a link that would help get you to those. So if you want to take a picture of it right now with your camera, you can. These are the opportunities that we're going to be provided during the fall. So you can join us on each of these dates. We hope that you will. Next slide, please. Just a few housekeeping chores because of course we are. All right, you guys all know where your bathrooms are, so we won't have to go there. Oh yeah, that's a real conference, not a virtual one. Sorry. Anyway, so all of our meeting attendees are muted in the MSN live environment. We do have a live chat available through the Q&A icon. You should be able to see that on the right, I believe. We do have the live meeting are automatically recorded and all Q&A comments are saved. The recording may take about an hour or two after we're finished to be able to view it again. Next slide, please. And additionally, we are offering CNE credit. There's a 1 hour of CNE credit for this particular event. We have a no conflict of interest to disclose, and at the end of the session, attendees will be invited to identify factors to consider when choosing the right program, learn about the benefits available, and consider opportunities for career advancement. So to receive the credit, you need to attend the entire live event or watch the recording, and please complete the course evaluation, and there'll be a link available in the chat room. Hopefully that'll be coming up here in just a moment. Next slide, please. So on the agenda today, we have Father Oliver Doyle, President of the University of Providence, will be opening it. I will be giving a safety story. Dr. Troy Larkin will be talking about selecting a program that's right for you. Ms. Wilson and Ms. Yocon will be talking about the support structures for returning to school. That's probably the biggest questions we get asked all the time. Where are those support structures to help me get back into school? And then we are honored to have Dr. Melissa Robinson, the division chair for University of Providence, is going to talk about all the educational opportunities, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll have an opportunity for some questions and answers. Next slide, please. I am very proud to present Dr. Oliver Doyle. He is the president of the University of Providence. He is from Ireland, and he has a wonderful, wonderful reflection for us today. Father Oliver, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Lynette. Thank you, everybody. I'm so pleased and honored to be here this morning and to share with you a reflection. just a little bit about the reflection, just to put it into context. It's a poem written by an Irishman. No, sort of, no marks for that one. He's a Capuchin friar working in Dublin, ministering in inner city Dublin, and he wrote this in the very early stages of the outbreak of the coronavirus in Ireland, and therefore, while it's not just applicable to Ireland, you know, that's the source of it. So there are one or two Irish references, but it's about how does the human spirit navigate these times. And for the last couple of months, I think we have all been bound up in one way by the constraints of even travel or visiting or being at ease with people. And just there, as I've been saying for the last couple of months, there is an underlying stress and tension that we're living with on a daily basis. And I just think this poem speaks to that stress, but also points a way for us to navigate it. It's a long poem, and I am very aware as a one-time pastor of a parish how easy people fall asleep when I speak too much. It's sort of an occupational hazard, and so I've tried to present it in a way that is, yes, it is spoken, but there are images that hopefully can sort of help ease the concentration level. So it's called "Open the Windows of Your Soul," and I will ask that each slide be put up, and then we'll just after I speak the words, then we'll just pause for a little bit before I say the next slide, please. So next slide, please. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there is isolation. Next slide. Yes, there is panic buying. Yes, there is sickness. Next slide. Yes, there is even death, but... Next slide. They say in Wuhan, after so many years of noise, you can hear the birds sing again. The sky is no longer thick with fumes, but blue and grey and clear. Next slide. They say that in the streets of Assisi, people are singing to each other across the empty squares, so that those who are alone may hear the sounds of family and friends around them. Next slide. They say that a hotel in the west of Ireland is offering free meals and delivery to the housebound. Next slide. Today, a young woman I know is busy spreading flyers with her number through the neighborhood so that the elders may have someone to call on. Next slide. Today, churches, synagogues, mosques and temples are preparing to welcome and to shelter the homeless, the sick, the weary. Next slide. All over the world, people are slowing down and reflecting. All over the world, people are looking at their neighbors in a new way. All over the world, people are waking up to a new reality. Next, please. To how big we really are, to how little control we really have. Next, please. To what really matters, love. So we pray and we remember that yes, there is fear, but there does not have to be hate. Next slide. Yes, there is isolation, but there does not have to be loneliness. Next slide. Yes, there is panic buying, but there does not have to be meanness. Next slide. Yes, there is sickness, but there does not have to be disease of the soul. Next slide. Yes, there is even death, but there can always be a rebirth of love. Next slide. Wake to the choices you make as to how you live now. Today, breathe. Next slide. Listen. Behind the factory noises of your panic, the birds are singing again. The sky is clearing. Spring is coming, and we are always encompassed by love. Next slide. Open wide the windows of your soul. Next slide. And though you may not be able to touch across the empty square. Next slide. Sing. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Father Oliver. That was beautiful. A good reminder of the differences that we have in our days today. So for our safety story this morning, you know, I was a director of quality management, and we did risk management. And so I'd often hear and read about different patient stories. So today's story I want to share with you is really about using the CUS tool and speaking up for safety. So a home health caregiver entered a non-Providence Memorial memory care facility to provide care for one of the home care patients. And upon entering this facility, the facility staff began to saturate the caregiver's person and clothing with an unknown aerosol spray. The caregiver had stated to the facility staff that she was uncomfortable with this practice and reported that the spray was causing skin irritation. The facility staff responded that everyone, including their own staff, had to be sprayed with this organic type spray because of COVID-19 per direction of their executive board. The caregiver noted to her core leader of the incident using the CUS tool. And in that CUS tool, as you all are familiar with, that's I am concerned, I'm uncomfortable, and there is a safety issue. After notification, the caregiver supervisor obtained the safety data sheet, queried her other caregivers regarding possible exposure, and reviewed the importance of speaking up for safety with all caregivers. During the investigation, the supervisor learned that one additional caregiver had also been exposed to the spray and had some skin irritations. And after careful review, it was determined that the spray was not appropriate for application to human and first aid measures were recommended. As a result, the supervisor contacted the facility owners and using the CUS tool was able to have owners agree to discontinue the use of the spray on the caregivers. The importance of this story is for speaking up and standing up for safety. Our next presenter is Dr. Troy Larkin. Dr. Larkin is the Executive Director of Nursing Outcomes and Education. Troy has done a lot of the work planning for today and preparing for it. So I'm delighted to give him this opportunity. Dr. Larkin, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Lynette. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And I really thought that the story about returning to school and making the decision to go back to school starts with making that decision. How is it that you make that decision? And in my experience of counseling a number of nurses getting back to school, and then myself going back to school several times, these are some of the things that I think you should think about. First of all, do some honest appraisal of your life and the commitments that you have. I think going back to school is probably a lot like making the decision to have children. There's probably never the perfect time. So I don't think you should wait until everything in your life is in order and perfect before you go back to school. But there are some times that are probably not a great time to start back in, and really only you can make that determination. So do take a look at all of the things that are going on, where are your children at, where are your spouse or partner, your parents, how's work going, so that you know that you can put the attention to this goal if you choose to do so. And the other thing I always tell people when they go back to school is I ask them, what are you going to give up? It is very much, I think, the common state of today, that we have another thing that comes on our to-do list, and we just find a way to figure it out and to stick it in to our very busy and probably overpacked schedules. But I think when you're going back to school, this isn't just an hour a week. This is going to be a few hours a week that you're going to have to attend school, that you're going to have to write some papers. It's not impossible to figure out that time in your schedule, but it does mean that you're probably going to have to give something up. You know, is that going to be a really clean house? Is that going to be a committee that maybe you serve on, or an activity that you enjoy, maybe cutting back on some social things? Be careful not to cut back on the self-care things that you're doing, but do have an honest appraisal about what you're going to give up. And I also want people to think about and maybe talk to some people in your own life that have been back to school as an adult. Rarely do people tell you, you know, I really wish I would have waited a little longer to go back to school. Almost always people say to me, I wish I had made this decision sooner. Next slide. Another thing that comes up fairly often is people feeling somewhat distressed about their experience in school in the past. You know, and returning to school really is a different experience than what you did the first time. Education approaches have changed, and it is a much more engaging experience to return back to school to get your bachelor's degree, to return to school to get a master's or a doctoral degree. You generally have much more ability to customize what you're learning. You have some say in that. You're returning as an adult, and that's a really different experience than going to school, you know, right out of high school or maybe a couple years into your 20s. Admission is generally less competitive for graduate programs and for RN-BSN programs. So if you were one of those people like me that really struggled to get into your program, and it was really tough to get in my case, in my associate's program, do recognize that pre-licensure is tough to get into, but the post-licensure schooling is generally a lot easier to get in. There's more use of technology, and for some people this is a good thing, and for others it's not. You're going to be more collaborative with your faculty. Now, as an adult going back to school, you're probably going to have more competition for your attention than you did if you went to school, you know, in your late teens or early 20s. So that's something else to factor in. Next slide. So think about what kind of program is really going to help you be successful. Think through what program features are going to help. Like, do you have a really fixed career goal that you know very specifically what you want to do with this degree? Then get the degree that's going to get you there. If you are more flexible and you're taking this education to open some doors and open yourself to new experiences in the future, well, then you can choose a degree that's a little bit wider. Are you a sprinter or a marathon runner? Do you want to get this done as soon as you possibly can? Or do you, for any reason, either your personal style or just your life circumstance, need to spread this out? Do you learn better in a group? Do you need the support of your colleagues in a group setting? Or are you kind of a lone wolf and you tend to do better with studying just being on your own? That's going to affect what kind of program you choose. How important is cost? What skills do you need to brush up on to be successful in the program? And think about what that support looks like from you. And what can you do to kind of set yourself up for success, because that's going to make, you can do a lot of those things before you actually get into the program. Next slide. So I think people should always understand the accreditation of a program. You know, schools are ideally regionally accredited, the entire school, the college, or the university. The program is ideally nationally accredited, and there's some accreditation bodies listed here on the slides. You do want to also understand any articulation agreements that are between your school that you're thinking about attending and how their credits transfer to other schools. Make sure that you really understand this. If you're attending, especially if you're attending a primarily online school, make sure that you know that the schooling that you're doing there is going to be applicable and transferable to a different program once you graduate. You also want to understand what the persistence to graduation rate is and other metrics that are important to you. So you want to know how many people start the program and how many people end the program on time. How long does it take the average graduate to complete the program that you're looking at, and does that fit into your time window? Other things you might be thinking about, especially as you do graduate school, is how much research, and does the research being done at that school kind of match what you're interested in? And then you also want to understand progression policies. As an adult, and especially if you're going to be going to school for more than a year or two, there are things in life that can happen. So make sure that you understand and can agree to progression policies. So if you do have to take a semester off, if you do need to get it incomplete, if you might need to have a medical condition that's going to take you out of school for a while, how easy is it to leave and to come back into the program? Next slide. So choosing the right degree for undergraduates, there's a whole body of degrees that are pre-licensure programs. Those are your diploma and associate and baccalaureate programs that get you to the license of a registered nurse. There are some alternative entry pre-licensure programs. So if there's some people listening that are not a nurse that have a degree in another field and would like to become a nurse, there are programs out there for that. People with a bachelor's who want to get a BSN or an MSN, and there's even some DNP or PhD alternatives. Make sure that if you're going to do one of these programs, and this is true of your post-licensure program, that's beyond just one level of degree. So if I'm starting with an associate's degree and I am going to go into a program that graduates with a master's degree, that's going to take some time, and you want to make sure that there's kind of an exit ramp. If something happens in your life that you need to leave school, that you would be able to leave maybe with a bachelor's degree, rather than the whole school is not going to grant you a degree unless you complete the entire program. That's kind of important for the larger programs or the longer programs that have multiple degree exit options. There are post-licensure programs for people who are an RN. You can do an RN to a BSN program, an RN to a master's program, and there's even some that are bachelor's degree to terminal degrees, either a PhD or a DNP. Next slide. So for graduate programs, there's again a lot of flavors here, and I think when you're thinking about graduate school, you should really be clear on what is it that you really want to do with this degree, because that's going to help you make the decision on which one's the right one for you. Typically, they're 4 semesters long. That's about 2 years. They're usually about 40, give or take, credits. And there's a variety of specializations. You can do education or population health, advanced practice. A doctorate of nursing practice is a terminal degree. It is the kind of final degree for people who want to stay in clinical practice. It's typically 5 or 6 semesters after a master's degree. That's about a year or 2 post-masters, 2 to 3 years if you're starting at the baccalaureate level for this degree. Again, a variety of specializations, advanced practice, leadership, staff development, or education. And finally, the doctorate of philosophy and nursing. This is a terminal academic degree. It's typically about 4 years to 6 years after a bachelor or after a master's degree. Usually 5 semesters and then of classes. And then once you're done with your classes, you have to do a piece of research typically. And that's going to take, depending upon the research topic, at least a year, if not 2 or 3 years. And a doctorate of philosophy is a research-focused degree. So if you want to do research and come up with original knowledge, the PhD is the way to go. Next slide. Non-nursing options, you can get masters in other fields. The caution with other fields is just to make sure that sometimes it's best to have a degree in nursing. If you want to go teach nursing and you want to be the faculty of record for a nursing class, you'll probably have to have a master's degree in nursing. If that's not really in your future, then some of these other master's degrees, like an MBA or a master's in business administration or a master's in health administration would be most helpful. Terminal degrees in other fields, this is like getting a doctorate of education, an EDD, a doctor of public health. Less concerned there about teaching, because often those people have a master's degree in nursing before they split off. But if that's not the case and you think working in a classroom is for you, make sure to get that graduate degree in nursing. Next slide. Couple cautions, things for you to think about. One, don't select your nursing program solely based on easy entry criteria. Some programs don't require you, for a graduate program, for example, you may not, some programs require you to take an exam, a placement exam, some do not. Some programs require you to take statistics before you get your bachelor's degree. Some programs make that entry point really easy. And while that ease of entry into the program is a really nice feature and benefit of some programs, it shouldn't be the sole criteria. Don't sell yourself short. What I find a lot of times is people get back to school, they get into a rhythm, and they decide they want to continue on. So leave that pathway open for yourself, and don't just get that baccalaureate degree in nursing and believe that you're never going to go back afterwards. A lot of times people do. So keep that open for yourself. A lot of people catch the bug for going back to school. And then finally, don't be scared. It is very scary, especially for professional nurses that are experts in their field, to be vulnerable in a classroom situation and kind of expose areas that they don't know as well, or to try things that are new and different. You're smart enough. If you've made it through nursing and you're working, you are plenty smart enough to get through these programs. You are capable, and you can do this. It takes commitment and it takes some dedication. Don't let fear hold you back from going further in your education. That's what I really hope for you, and I really appreciated having the time with you to talk to you a little bit about making that decision to go to school. I'm going to hand this over to Lynette to introduce our next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. I'm going to just support what Troy's been talking about. At the University of Providence, our entire faculty is dedicated to having you all be successful. So when there's that fear of coming back and learning new technique or tools, they're going to be there to support you and help you do that. So I really am appreciative of what Troy has brought today. Next, Ms. Wilson and Ms. Yocon are two of our folks that work with the Caregiver Wellbeing Division. These are people that are there to help you talk about the support structures for returning to schools. So I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you so much, Lynette. Well, I'm thrilled to be able to talk with you about this topic today, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart. As a caregiver, we have significant support from our organization to go back to school, and I'm a recipient of the tuition reimbursement program. I got my master's in nursing a few years back by taking advantage of this opportunity, which absolutely enabled me to do that while I was working. So our tuition reimbursement program is supported by our partner, Bright Horizons EdAssist. And I want to give you a little bit of overview of what that offers, because it goes well beyond the financial aspects of tuition reimbursement. If you're considering going back to school, Bright Horizons EdAssist platform offers education coaching, a whole education network. They do the heavy lifting to try and find the right academic institutions for you to meet your goals. There's an education benefits platform to help you organize your tuition reimbursement receipts and process, customer support, and also our organization has an aligned tuition reimbursement policy to help guide you. And University of Providence offers our caregivers immediate reimbursement. So if you feel like you're not in a position to front the money for your tuition and wait till you've passed coursework, University of Providence offers immediate reimbursement for you so that you don't have a financial outlay at the beginning for your portion. Tuition reimbursement also, as I mentioned, offers education coaching, and this is a great opportunity to connect with experts to make that best decision for you. By talking with an education coach, you can potentially reduce your costs and accelerate your education if you hit the right track from the outset of your path. You can identify the right education programs for you that are aligned with your career objectives, and there's a personalized education plan you can help put together. There's also advice available for your financial questions. Not only is going back to school a time commitment, it's also a financial commitment. So that's a good conversation to have with an education coach. Next slide. So there is a broad education network available through Bright Horizons EdAssist, and they've gone out and found the best institutions to work with and also secured tuition discounts from over 200 educational institutions. A wide range of learning options are available. Similar to what Troy mentioned, you can go back to an associate's degree, bachelor, postgraduate degrees, certifications even for your specialty area, individual courses that might help you in your current practice. Language training, boot camps, a whole variety of options are available. And as I mentioned, there's savings available for many of these institutions, 10% or more, some waived fees, and also you might have children who are college age or a partner who can also take advantage of these discounts as they go back to school. Next slide. So there's an education benefits platform, and this provides you access to everything you need to manage your education. You create an application, you let the EdAssist team know what you're pursuing, and that's that perfect place to organize all your information to be able to get your reimbursement and your coaching. Next slide. So I encourage you to get the most of your benefit if you're considering going back to school. Schedule a coaching session as early as possible in your path, even if it's just an information gathering or bouncing some ideas off of an education coach. It might help shape your direction. Apply your prior learning and professional experience for college credit, and you can work with a coach to help you get that set up. And you can understand what educational programs are covered by your policy. And as I mentioned, prepayment of courses may be an option. That's already an option through University of Providence. And I encourage you, if this is of interest to you, to check your ministry-specific tuition reimbursement policy for all the details you'll need. Next slide. So our aligned tuition reimbursement policy offers a few common features to it. Eligibility. Benefits eligible non-union caregivers who work at least part-time, which is 0.5 FTEs and higher, and also who have been in good standing with the organization for the prior 6 months. There's a two-step process. There's an application window 90 days before and 15 days after a course starts. That's when you have the opportunity to apply to say, I'm going to do this course and I would like to apply for tuition reimbursement. Then after the course is concluded, you have a reimbursement window of 60 days from the course end. This is when you have the ability to turn in your grades, show that you've passed the coursework, turn in your receipts, and be able to get that tuition reimbursement that's available to you through your policy. Your waiting period for this coverage begins 90 days after your most recent hire date, so 3 months, give or take. And qualifying programs are coming from accredited institutions, and they need to be career or job related. Next slide. So reimbursement is covered for tuition, books, and education related fees. And there's different rates available for tuition reimbursement depending on whether you're a full-time or a part-time caregiver. There's also a hard cap limit in the policy, which allows for denial of applications should your ministry's annual budget be exhausted. A passing grade is required to be able to receive tuition reimbursement. And certificates or certifications are covered. These exclude those basic certifications like ACLS, BLS, PALS, and NALS, or any minimum job qualification certifications. Continuing education is covered, but when it's expressly for the purpose of certification or recertification. So we all need to have continuing ed for our basic licensure. That's not covered, but if I had for example, a certification in critical care, I could get reimbursement for those continuing eds that help me recertify. Your benefit date is based on your reimbursement date. Next slide, please. So University of Providence, I mentioned several times, a great option to have immediate reimbursement through their School of Health Professions. The University of Providence School of Health Professions are designed to teach with our caregivers' development in mind. They're tailored to set up for our workplace so that you're supported as you're working as a caregiver and trying to go back to school. Their values are aligned with our organization. Their courses are designed for you at work. There's online satellite programs. You don't necessarily have to go to Montana to attend this university. And their certificate to graduate programs created just with you in mind. And many programs qualify for tuition assistance beyond the immediate reimbursement and/or financial aid. I also want to mention that this is also an option for your dependents, for your college-age children. If they're looking to go back, there might be some really good discounts for them as well. Next slide. So to enroll or for more information, there's some links here, and I know this will be provided afterwards. And also the nursing programs, there's information here, and you'll hear from Dr. Robinson next about them. And also the healthcare programs, there's some contact information here if you want to learn more about those. If there's any interest in these programs or you've not yet enrolled, reach out to these folks and get more information to see if these options through University of Providence might work for you. Next slide. So next steps. To access your EdAssist site to see if this is something you want to pursue, visit the HR service portal and select tuition reimbursement or EdAssist under the external links menu. And then you'll select which organization you're a part of. And it'll make you log in, you'll authenticate, and you'll be transferred to the EdAssist site where you can explore everything available. And you may have some questions after you look at that. Please don't hesitate to call EdAssist. They have reasonable hours to try and meet everyone. Even if you're coming off a night shift, you can still call them early in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. So good luck on your journey and your consideration of how you pursue your next steps.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. That is the most important thing, trying to pre-plan about how you're going to pay for education. So I appreciate you going over all of those examples and opportunities. Next, we have Dr. Melissa Robinson. Dr. Robinson is our new division chair for nursing programs at University of Providence. She has a long history of being an educator, and she's just been a joy and a delight to work with. So I'll turn this over to you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you very much, Lynette. Good morning, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I started at University of Providence on June 1st, and I'm gushing. I'll be gushing over the next few minutes about how wonderful our programs are, with just all sincerity. I've been very, very excited and impressed by the quality of programs we have at University of Providence. So I'm super excited to share those with you. The University of Providence is actually in Great Falls, Montana, for those of you who might not know, knowing that we have people in the virtual room from all over the region. And so Great Falls is in sort of north central Montana and sort of somewhat rural. The surrounding areas are somewhat rural. It's been wonderful to circle back to University of Providence because I'm originally from Montana, so I live in Oregon now. But I thought I'd share a map with you just to kind of give you some context for where we are. Our health programs are largely virtual, so you can join our health programs from anywhere. And so that's kind of helpful to know, but we also do have a very robust liberal arts campus, a School of Liberal Arts and Sciences that's located on our beautiful campus in Great Falls. So that's where we are. So next slide. And we have one university, we are one university with two schools. So we have a School of Health Professions, and then we have the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, which I mentioned. The beauty of that combination is really that we are educating health professionals in our health programs that have that liberal arts foundation. And so that's actually essential for nursing programs and many health professions. So we think of ourselves as becoming and growing into and building on that foundation of being a citizen and a well-rounded person and a critical thinker, but also then specializing in that health profession. So you'll probably hear me speak more about the value of that as we go through this. So our health professions, like I mentioned, those programs are offered online and at our branch campus locations. So we do have a baccalaureate program that, I wonder if we could go back to the previous slide just for another minute. Our branch campus locations are actually in Lewistown, Montana, which is not too far from our Great Falls campus, but that's a BSN branch where we're offering the BSN degree. And then we also have a BSN degree campus in Anchorage, Alaska. And so those students are served out of our Providence, Anchorage, Alaska Medical Center. And so those are the two main branches for health programs now. We've also designed those health programs specifically for Providence caregivers. And so each program that's been developed has been very directly based on the needs that we've heard and learned from the healthcare system. And then you heard me talk about the School of Liberal Arts. Some of those degrees include science degrees, psychology, exercise science, those types of degrees. We also have it's a traditional campus, so we have students that live on campus and take classes there. So it is a very traditional campus. So we're lucky to have both in our school. So next slide, please. Health programs outside of nursing. We have a robust set of offerings, including a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration, a Master of Health Administration, and then a Master of Science in Infection Prevention and Epidemiology, which, as you can imagine, is sort of a popular degree right now. During a pandemic, this has proven to be pretty wise on the part of those that developed that program. And so nurses are certainly attracted to those master's degree programs, but we're seeking all disciplines, obviously, to those degree programs. Next slide, please. We also have certificates in health programs, applied health informatics, which is very unique and relevant to what we're doing with technology and healthcare, a medical assistant certificate, which is a popular certificate program, pharmacy technician, and a health justice certificate. So those are options for professionals across the system who want to add to their current qualifications and do so in a shorter amount of time. So yeah, next slide, please. And then our nursing programs. We have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing Accelerated program, which is a 12-month program. We have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing RN-BSN completion program. So nurses join that program who have an associate degree or a diploma in nursing. Those nurses can join that program as well. And I'll talk about each of these in more detail as we go along. We do have two graduate programs, which are newer. The Master of Science in Nursing is, I think, in its third year. And then we have specializations in nursing education. And then we have an adult gerontology nurse practitioner program starting in January. So those are great options for nurses who already have a BSN and are looking to add to their qualifications or build their career. Next slide. Our mission for nursing at the University of Providence is really designed or it aligns with leadership goals. You know, we're preparing graduates to be leaders in healthcare at any level. Communication, highly skilled clinical work, and change influencers. Those are some of the highlights of our curriculum across all programs. We know, at least many of us in academia in nursing education, believe that all nurses are leaders and all nurses are influencers at all levels. And so those are some of the things that we work to refine those skills in our programs. We also promote lifelong learning. And, you know, nurses just go back to school. They do. They really do. One of the things that Lynette mentioned, as well as Troy in their presentations, is, you know, your faculty in the nursing programs want you to be successful, but they've also been on this path of lifelong learning themselves. so it's really a unique model when nurses are educating other nurses that are on that path and making that decision to advance their education using evidence-based practices. We really are moving towards that population-centered focus, which you hear in practice across the system as being a priority as we promote health and prevent disease, as in addition to treating disease. So those are important concepts, as well as grounding our nursing in spiritual, ethical, and compassionate care. So our mission for nursing at the university really fits the mission of Providence overall. We feel like when we can promote health through nursing, health is better for everyone. And so that's really our mission. Next slide, please. Dr. Larkin also talked about accreditation in his presentation, which is really quite essential when you're looking for a program. And of course, we hope you choose our program, but this is true of any program that you choose. It's so important if you're going back for your bachelor's degree, for example, to choose a program that is accredited and has regional accreditation as well, so that those credits can transfer in to a graduate program. And I, for one, never thought that I would pursue graduate nursing when I went back for my bachelor's degree. I started out with an associate degree, and after 11 years got a bachelor's degree and then moved forward into graduate school. So I never would have predicted that. So I'm so glad, even not knowing this at the time, but that I went to a school that was accredited and I was able to transfer those credits as I went forward, because then you get credit for that work that you've done in education as you go along. So our programs are CCNE accredited, including our graduate programs, which were just most recently accredited this spring officially. And then our university has Northwest accreditation, and our programs are recognized by the Montana Board of Nursing. And as students move through our programs, depending on which program they're in, they may complete clinical in different areas, such as Alaska for our BSN students, and such as other states for the nurse practitioner practicums. We work with those state boards of nursing as well to get approval for our students to be doing clinical and practicums in those states. Next slide, please. So to get into the specifics about each program, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program actually is a fairly new program. It launched in 2019. The program is 12 months. It runs from January to December. It's really designed for students that have a bachelor's degree in another field, any other field. Students that have that demonstrated success with higher education are more prepared to handle that 12-month accelerated, very, very intense learning for the nursing education. It's kind of a compressed schedule, but the outcomes are very good when we use that model. So those students are placed at sites in Lewistown and Anchorage. The program at University of Providence, which is very innovative for baccalaureate nursing, including virtual and online didactic, as well as hands-on learning in simulation and in clinical sites for placement. So it's really from my background coming into it, realizing this is really an innovative, up-to-date program. Those are the types of skills when you're learning online and doing simulation virtually that really prepare you for the profession and for what we're doing in practice. And so that's a value in that program for sure. Our first cohort graduated and had an over 94% first-time NCLEX pass rate, which is for the first program a testament to the incredible work of the faculty, but also the quality of the students that we have. And so we're very proud of that first-time pass rate. Our second cohort is midway through their year, and it's a pandemic year, so there have been some challenges, but they're progressing on schedule. And then we just admitted our third cohort of 33 students, which will be split between Anchorage and Lewistown, Montana. And so those students will start in January. So we're very proud of our pre-licensure BSN program. And then our RN-BSN program. This program has been going for over 10 years. In fact, Dr. Larkin participated in developing this, and and also spent some time with us last week talking about the success of this program. We've had nearly 1,000 Providence nurses move through this program to get their bachelor's degree, which is really incredible. The outcomes have been wide-ranging. A lot of those nurses get their BSN and then they move into leadership roles. The majority of those nurses have been retained by Providence and still work in positions in Providence, so that's wonderful. The workforce has really been strengthened by those nurses coming back to school and achieving their BSN. They're doing amazing work in practice. So the method for teaching RN-BSN students is blended, synchronous and asynchronous. So sometimes you're online together one day every other week, and then most of the time it's asynchronous. So you work on your coursework when you're not at work. And so this really works well for working nurses to be successful in this model. We have been doing some things recently to improve this program and get more nurses involved. So we recently reduced the length of this program from 18 months to 12 months, which has been much more popular. Last year, or in 2019, when we decided to do this, we were having about 50 to 60 or so students advance through the program. Just this fall, we had 72 just last week participate in our online immersion, and we'll be starting the program. So 72 in that cohort is pretty strong. So next slide, please. We also have graduate nursing programs, which we are shamelessly recruiting for at this moment. We have two cohorts, the nurse educator cohort and the new nurse practitioner with a focus on adult gerontology starting in January. So we're recruiting right now to fill those cohorts. I think the start date is January 10th for those. So if you get an email from us, that's what that's about. Maybe we'll move to the next slide, and I'll talk specifically about those programs. The nurse educator program, we have 3 options now for nurses that want to become a nurse educator. You can complete the program full-time in a 12-month program, or you can complete the program in a slower pace over 2 years or 6 semesters. And then we have a third option if you have a master's degree already and want to develop your skills in nursing education. You can earn an 11-credit postmaster's certificate in nursing education, and that is affordable, and it's over 2 semesters, and we're super excited about it. That's a new offering. So I hope you'll be in touch with us about that if you're interested in becoming a staff nursing educator, going into academics, working in clinical education, or working in patient education, if those are your goals. The adult gerontology program is over 2 years. We have 8-week courses and 7-week courses. It is 2 years. It's heavy on clinical practicum, 545 hours or so will be in that program, as well as specializing in some of those key areas of pathophysiology, pharmacology, advanced health assessment. So we're going to be working on preparing our graduates to take the national exam with a high success rate. Each of those programs have a required virtual immersion prior to the start of the program. So we can work with you on getting used to what the classroom looks like and meet us virtually to understand the expectations of those programs. So we're excited to hear from you about those programs. And next slide, please. Some of the ways you can connect with us, take a picture of this slide, I hope, and put us on speed dial. You can certainly reach out to me. You can go to that link on our website to request more information and apply for our programs, as well as contact Crystal, who's our nursing program manager. The other thing we've been offering are virtual information sessions, and so we often send those out widely to the system to engage your participation, but we also hope to do some more targeted information sessions. So if you can inquire and request more information, then you'll be on our mailing list and we can send you more information about ways to connect with us. So thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure to share these programs with you, and I hope we can hear from you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. So in preparing to kind of close out for today, our next event, if you want to put it on your calendars, is September 23rd. It's from 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to be talking about nursing research, something that's near and dear to my heart and many others, and the spirit of inquiry on display. If you want to take a picture of this page, you've got the link down in the lower left-hand corner. We're going to actually do a Spirit of Inquiry Awards. And this is, we've got 100+ posters with clinical inquiry projects from 2019 that were collected, and we're going to be having selected different categories for winners, and those will be announced. You're going to hear from nurses who actually conducted the projects and really help celebrate that spirit of inquiry. That pandemic cannot keep us down when we want to share our research. I just want to make that clear. That darn pandemic, we're gonna be there with it. The SharePoint for future events will be listed in the chat box. Hopefully they'll be coming up, as well as that information on obtaining your CE for this. Next slide, please. So at this point, I believe if we've got, you have 3 minutes left to get any questions that you might have. We've got a Q&A session. I want to also encourage you, you can reach out to Dr. Larkin, to Dr. Robinson, or myself. We're be happy to answer questions. Ms. Wilson, for anything about the EdAssist component of this. And other than that, I'll want to see if there's any questions in the Q&A right now.
This is Leanne. We have one question. The question came in, where do I find out what my reimbursement cap is for the calendar year?
Wow, that's a great question. Miss Wilson might be the person to know that answer.
Great question. So that can be found in the HR service portal. So if you go navigate to the HR service portal and log in and select your organization, you'll find your specific policy that gives those details.
Perfect.
And
Leanne, do we have anything else? Any other questions?
I do. Along those same lines, it says, I'm interested in the RN-BSN program at the University of Providence, but I'm unclear on the support tuition that is being offered. I thought there was a special scholarship for Providence St. Joseph Health nurses. Troy, do you want to take that?
Thank you, Leanne. I would be happy to. So the person who asked the question, absolutely correct. We have historically had a discount for RNs seeking their BSN at the University of Providence. The discount for tuition is deeper for Providence St. Joseph nurses attending this program, with us covering roughly 60% of the actual tuition cost and the student covering approximately 40%. We are updating the scholarship, and we're going to announce specifics of that later this fall. The final support program will be in place for students who are enrolling in the January start date. So there's going to be more to come with the specifics. Thanks.
Thanks,
Leanne.
Troy. Yeah, thanks, Lynette. We have one more in here. This actually happened to me too, and this is a good question. It says, what if I don't receive my fall semester grades in time for reimbursement this calendar year?
Oh, a great question.
I don't know who would take that. Who feels good about that one?
That would be a great question for Linda.
Okay, Linda.
Thank you so much, Marcy. Yeah, so actually with fall classes coming up, we do have a process that EdAssist will follow for year-end grades, because we do know that sometimes the classes won't coincide with our year-end payroll processing dates. So I just recommend that when caregivers are accessing the EdAssist platform, that they are mindful of the communications that EdAssist will be posting, and it will talk about, in place of final grades, they will accept grade books, which are available to most students through a school website, usually Blackboard. And they do require these documents to include basic information on our caregivers, such as their name, a school identifier, their course name, and the status of their grade at that moment in time. That way they could provide that to be able to get their reimbursement in time to apply for their 2020 cap. Alternatively, a caregiver could also provide their current grade from their professor on school letterhead. Hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Leanne, any other questions right now?
Let's see, what are my options if I miss the deadline for a tuition application?
I'll go ahead and take that. That is a great question. We do get that come up often. So if you are new to EdAssist and the tuition reimbursement policy and you've never done this before and you may have missed the deadline, rest assured you can still go onto the EdAssist platform, submit your application, and it may provide an automatic denial, but there's an option there to submit an appeal, and that will come directly to us on the caregiver well-being team. And we can certainly review that and grant you a one-time exception, to ease your way through learning this process and how to access the EdAssist platform.
Perfect. Any other questions, Leanne?
Nope, I think we're at time, Lynette, so it worked out perfectly. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, all of us on the presentation today want to thank you so much for your time, for your willingness to join us in this new virtual world, and we hope that you'll be joining us next month for the next nursing seminar event. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.